rededication in the life of so much of the world. Welcome. We are here to commemorate, especially those from Harlow, who gave sacrificially of their lives. 123 from what was then a small community, young people. We have the new cross, we're rededicating the memorial. 2 new names are being added, and a number of those commemorated here are represented by 8 or so from families, and an especial welcome to you, to Graham Wilson, Doreen Snell, Brian Little, Mary Little, Christine Taylor, Janice East, Greg Lincoln, Don Crampthorne, Dawn Taylor, and others who perhaps have joined us as well. We remember the millions who from across the world gave their lives, not just from our own nation. There were, for example, 1.4 million Indians. Representatives of the families will be laying wreaths. You should have received, as you arrived, a copy of this Gospel, a replica of the Gospels handed out to the troops during the First World War. And at the close, during the final hymn, there will be the opportunity to take some poppy seeds. Someone will be standing just on that corner over there, and to scatter them in the unturfed area so that they will commemorate in the years to come. It's lovely that the 71st Signal Regiment of Essex Yeomanry are represented here today. They had a troop in Harlow during the First World War. It's lovely to welcome others from the Royal British Legion, Royal Naval Association, the veterans, and others as well.
Thank you, Martin, for your warm welcome to this important beginning of the next 100 years of remembrance. As the representative of Harlow Council, I have the honour to introduce this rededication of this memorial to those who lived in and around Potter Street and who died in the service of our nation during World War I. Why 100 years? Well, apart from being a round number, it marks the end of the period when all living memory of those who took part in this conflict is gone. Most of us have, during our lives, spoken to someone who was there, have sat on a bus with them, have sat in a pub with them, have stood in a queue with them, without ever realising that they were there amidst all the horror of this war to end all wars. So memory now rests with those of us old enough to have known someone who was there, perhaps a relative, a neighbour, a friend. Such memories fade with time. Important details get missed or changed. That is why it is important to identify those who keep those memories and record them so that they can share these memories with new generations. This is where councils and local organisations, groups and individuals, such as are listed on page 4 of the booklet you've been given, come in. And where it's appropriate for your local council to take responsibility for pulling all of them together in this amazing record of those from our community who were sacrificed. This is a work of which we can be proud, and I say a heartfelt thanks to all who gave their time and effort and expertise and memories to put this all together.
The Lord is my shepherd, therefore can I lack nothing. He shall feed me in a green pasture, and lead me forth beside the waters of comfort. He shall convert my soul, and bring me forth in the paths of righteousness, for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou shalt prepare a table before me, against them that trouble me. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, and my cup shall be full. But thy loving kindness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
For people of my generation, it's easy to look back at the events of World War I as lines in a history book, of geopolitics and generals and military strategy. But it's reading through the 120 names in this register of dedication. 120 names of ordinary people with strong links to Harlow and surrounding areas who died in the First World War. From Gerald Aldridge to Walter Woolard, about their backgrounds and families, that brings it home. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things in extraordinary times. This is about the sacrifice of individuals, of fathers, of brothers and sons. Sons as young as 17, younger than my son is now. It's about the sacrifices of those left behind, of their families, some losing 2 or 3 sons, the legacy of struggle and heartbreak. It's also about the sacrifice of communities. It's through these sacrifices of individuals, of their families and their communities that we enjoy the freedoms, democracy and diversity that we do. I would urge us all to reflect on these sacrifices of family life and hardships, of 126 individuals, and remember them.
Ardent-eyed, enkindle this dear earth that bore us in the hour of peril purified. The cares we hugged drop out of vision, our hearts with deeper thought dilate. We step from days of sour division into the grandeur of our fate. So begins Lawrence Binion's poem, The 4th of August. It's rather less well known than its companion piece, For the Fallen, for which come those memorable and familiar words, we will remember them. But what's not often appreciated is that both poems were written at the very start of World War I, within a few weeks of each other. And their complex mixture of emotions and sentiments, heroic patriotic duty alongside the pain of young lives ended prematurely. These seemingly contradictory moods perhaps sum up much of what this community of Potter Street would have felt 100 years ago. Who can tell whether any of the men who answered the call to service, both those whose names are listed solemnly in front of us and those who made it home again to survive and tell their tales, who can tell whether their cares dropped out of vision and their hearts with deeper thoughts dilated? For many of those who had joined up, even after the true nature of the war had become apparent, it was still a great adventure, maybe a time to escape unpromising circumstances in this then rural corner of West Essex. And how many of them, I wonder, would have shared Binion's description of the enemy as the barren creed of blood and iron, vampire of Europe's wasted will. All the historians have tried to analyse and understand the reasons that our nation declared war on Germany 100 years ago today, and for all that the nation's leaders of that time tried to portray the call to war as a moral one. Nonetheless, that sense of ambiguous motivation and mixed emotions has remained part of our national memory. There was and remains little doubt for the vast majority of British people why war was necessary and inevitable in 1939. But for the events of 25 years earlier, it's never been so straightforward.
Having taken 6 wickets, including a hat-trick. There was an advert for holidays in Great Yarmouth and Galston, with train fares from 11.50. Beecham's Pills by the Sea were for sale, and there was a job with a job vacancy paying £31 a year. Hundreds of men from Harlow and the surrounding villages had or would answer the call to enlist, and over 30 local men served in the Essex Regiment alone. Within 10 weeks of the outbreak of war, the family of Reginald John Bradley, who had lived in Churchgate Street with his parents, would receive the news that he had been killed on the 15th of October 1914 with the sinking of HMS Hawke. He was the first Harlow casualty of the war. Over the next 5 years or more, a further 125 men from the Harlow area would make the ultimate sacrifice and never return home. The last of these men was Walter Woolard, who died of his wounds on the 20th of February 1920, and his nephew lives within sight of this memorial across the common. I hope that the work done by the community project team helps ensure that the sacrifices made by the men of Harlow district, who lost their lives in both world wars and other conflicts since, are never forgotten.
He was a butcher's assistant, served as a gunner in the Royal Garrison Artillery in France and Flanders, killed in action in 1917 and buried in Menin. Albert Lincoln and John Lincoln, both dying in Flanders in 1917. Fred, their brother, was missing in action, but was found badly wounded and with memory loss. He died in 1955 and is buried nearby in St Mary Magdalene's churchyard. Then there was the errand boy for Dents, Walter Wheeler, youngest of 6. He took part in the battle on the Somme and was killed in action in 1916. His body was never found. And these few stories represent all the stories of those named on the memorial. And as Albert Edward Lincoln, John William Lincoln, Albert William Beadle, Alfred Ernest Hutton, Arthur Henry Brown, George Brown, Arthur Robert Pony, Charles Frank Lindsell, Frederick Pavitt, Charles Pavitt, George Henry Debnam, George Little, Henry Smith, Herbert Clements, John Cordell, John Robinson, Montague Jones Winch, Reginald Wheeler, Richard Palmer, Thomas William Bulldog, Thomas William Kerry, Vivian George Edward Ballard, Walter Wheeler, Walter Woolard, William Sortwell, Alfred James Sortwell, William Frederick Hode, William Henry Stanham, William Thomas Blatch, and two being added, Albert Edward Wilson and Charles Arthur Hall.